Congressman Morgan Griffith is on the line. Jerry Falwell Jr. is with us live. He's the president of Liberty University. Former Congressman, 5th District, Robert Hurt is with us, looking dapper today as always. Also with us is Scott Lamb, who is the Director of Communications for Liberty University. Dave Bratt is with us, former Congressman from the 7th District of Virginia and now the Dean of the Liberty University Business School. I think I got that all in, guys. Thank you so much. Let's start with President Falwell. And I just want to get to the article in the Wall Street Journal here, and we're going to get everybody involved. The New York Times came in. You were slandered. You said everybody was going to get sick. There'd be body bags in downtown Lynchburg. Nobody got sick. Nobody died. Nothing happened.
Before we get to that, can I go back to what you said about Lutag?
Yes, sir.
All right, the governor. Let me point out how hypocritical what he's done is. Online students are students who are average age 37. They're adults. They have families, mortgages, jobs. They can't afford to uproot and go back to college to finish their degree or to get a master's. So for that reason, about 65% of them are low-income students. About 27% of ours are minorities. And there's a huge number of military students in our online program in Virginia. Of our 100,000 students, it's really not it's only a couple thousand that are in Virginia. But the governor basically said, okay, I don't like Liberty's politics, so I'm going to punish all these people who are struggling financially or serving our country, or first responders, who are the main ones in our online program. And so we just decided, fine, we're gonna the money you're taking away from these people who deserve it the most, and giving it to the more elite private college students who are attending on campus and are age 18 to 24 and kind of feel entitled, they come from wealthier families. That's fine. You want to do that? We're going to give the ones that really need it the money, but we're not going to just give them the money. We're going to buy their claim, because it's a violation, we believe, of the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution for the governor to treat one class of students different than another class just based on how they how they listen to their professor and how they do their work. So we're buying their claims, and it's going to be any student, not just ours, anybody in Virginia who wants to study online that the governor has cut out. We're going to give them the same amount the governor would have given them. Now, the collateral damage of that will be there's 2 or 3, probably 3 schools in Virginia that have online programs. They're small schools, and it's the only thing that's keeping them in business. My intent is not to hurt those schools, but they will be the collateral damage, and the governor will be to blame for whatever happens to those schools financially. And it's a shame that he puts politics ahead of people, and but we're going to lay this disaster at his doorstep.
Congressman Hurt, you've served in the legislature in Virginia, you've served in Congress. What was the motivation for Ralph Northam to do this?
I'm not sure. I think that we've seen some things in the news that indicate what the reason was, and that it was aimed directly at Liberty. Liberty's obviously the biggest player in Virginia, and one of the biggest players in the world in online education. I just think that when you think about how important virtual learning is now, online learning is now under these circumstances, the short-sightedness and the punitive nature of this policy as it relates to, and I'm at the Helm School of Government here at Liberty University, and I remember just sort of being knocked off my feet when I was talking to a professor who said, I don't often know much about students in the context of that you might get to know a student when you are teaching them residentially. He said, but I was blown away, he said, when I realized that one of the students that I had in my online class was sitting on an aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf. That tells a story, doesn't it?
Yes.
And that's who's going to be hurt by this.
Right.
It is going to be the first responders and the people who serve in our armed services. That liberty serves, that online education serves, and the idea that the governor would take this position, I think, is not good.
So do you think it was a strictly a punitive position against Liberty University to hurt this university because of the number of online students you guys have? I mean, are you comfortable?
Probably Liberty and Regent.
Liberty and Regent in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, and
so hurt the.
And I didn't finish my thought earlier about buying their claim. Buying the claim against the governor from those new online students means we sue the governor on their behalf. They don't have to. And so it's going to be fun.
So it's going to be a class action suit, basically.
Right.
So you're buying their claim.
We're buying their claims, giving them.
So you give them the money, and I give up my claim, and I let you have the claim.
And then they don't have to worry about hiring a lawyer.
So you guys do the lawyer, but then you'll also get the damages.
That's right.
All right, let's get Congressman Morgan Griffith involved. Morgan, thanks for calling in and joining us here. Your former colleagues, Robert Hurt is here with us, Dave Pratt is here with us, Jerry Falwell Jr., Scott Lamb. Morgan, tell us what's going on with Pelosi right now, this $3 trillion bill. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to switch back to the TAG grant. I was a recipient of the TAG grant, one of the first way back when. And yes, I went to one of those smaller schools. But I have to tell you, I know look, a lot of the students at Liberty are off on aircraft carriers and et cetera. But this is another example of Democrats claiming to be for the little guy and then doing things that hurt him. One of my former clients got out of prison, straightened out his life, had a son, wanted to be able to show to his son that you can achieve things, and so he went back online. He could never have gone to school otherwise. His lease on life was that he struggled and he fought and he worked hard, and he finally got his bachelor's degree from Liberty by doing it online. So it's not just the aircraft carrier, it's the people that the Democrats are always claiming they're for that the governor's hurt. All right, sorry. Let's talk about Nancy Pelosi. I was outraged when I heard that this morning.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Morgan.
Anyway, that was just it's just upsetting that they do these policies and they don't think about who they're hurting, and oftentimes it's the little guy that they claim they're supposed to be for. All right. Nancy Pelosi, another case of, looking out for the rich guys, that $3 trillion package. One of the planks in there was that they were going to eliminate for 2 years the cap on SALT. Now, SALT is the state and local tax deduction on your federal income taxes. And in the 9th District of Virginia, we said when we passed that a couple of years back that you could claim up to $10,000 in the tax. So in the 9th District of Virginia that I represent, the highest taxed community is Salem, my hometown. And in order to and to have to pay any taxes at all under SALT on the federal tax side, you would have to have a house worth $861,000. That's in that plan that they claim they're supposed to be helping heroes. You know who it helps? It helps people who own flats in Manhattan in skyscrapers, the condos. It helps the millionaires in San Francisco and Los Angeles. It doesn't help the little guy. That was directly to help the fat cats, and they're trying to sell it as some way to help local government. Well, it may help those local governments that have overtaxed people, but it's really helping the fat cats because they get to take it off their federal deduction. And you know who gets to pay that? The rest of the taxpayers. So my district, which is 422nd in household income out of 435, my district would be paying so that people living in Manhattan, in skyscrapers, in $1 million, $2 million, $10 million condos don't have to pay taxes. That's just wrong, and it's another example. And that bill was filled with things like that. Now, look, like every bill, there are some things in there that if they had been standalone bills, I would have voted for and have voted for. But overall, it was a power grab by Nancy Pelosi. It's an attempt to, make things better for them. And they go out and they tell everybody, we're for the little guy. We're passing this they called it the Heroes Act. No, that's not what it's about at all. It's about more power for socialists, for Democrats, and for the fat cats who contribute millions of dollars to the Democrat Party.
Robert, how many constituents did you have, Robert Hurt, in the 5th district that own $1 million homes? Like
Not many.
Like
Not
5?
many. Yeah, not many.
It's ridiculous.
More in Charlottesville.
Yeah. So, like, even Liberty University, like, how many students here come from families that own $1 million homes in Virginia? I mean, it's such a small degree. I don't know, Seventh, Dave. I mean, there was there's some, but right?
Yeah, no, and it's not limited to just this issue. Nancy, we're talking China and big government and socialism and all this kind of thing, and people are missing right now. When you look at the billionaire class, they used to be, associated with Republicans. Not anymore. It's big medicine, big healthcare, big government, big technology, big automobile, big airlines. All these guys are Democrats. All the Gateses and the foundations and the whatever are Democrats now. And so Trump is doing the right thing. He's looking out for the forgotten man and woman. That's his whole campaign. That's the premise. And our leadership in the House and Senate just has to do better at getting that message out. They're not doing their part of who is really representing the elites and who's really taking care of the small guy. And it's ours to win.
Yeah, Liberty probably has one of the highest percentages of students that receive Pell Grants of any college. And even with that fact being true, we still have our student loan default rate is much better than the national average. So these kids are working their way up. They're coming from, a lot of them from tough backgrounds, but they're paying their loans back, which means they're getting jobs.
Right.
And they're working hard. And it's a work ethic that we like to think that we instill in them when they're here. And employers, landlords love to get Liberty students, in their stable.
What are the chances that Northam doesn't open public school in the fall? Is there a chance that he just puts it off, delays it again? And Morgan, what would the reaction be to people in the 9th district?
I think people would be very disturbed if schools didn't reopen. Obviously, all the school systems have been well trained now to do extra things and take extra precautions. But I think people would be very disturbed. Absent the cases just multiplying by the thousands and thousands in the 9th district, people expect their schools to open. We still have jurisdictions that have no cases. That doesn't mean that they won't get one or two or so forth, and there will be some hot spots, but nursing homes seem to be the real problem. And so if you want to say if you're attending a public school, you can't go into the nursing home, maybe that makes some sense. But look, we begged the governor to do a regional approach for weeks. He said he wasn't going to do it, and now he's not doing a regional approach, but he's letting local governments bow out of his current opening. I think he should probably do the same with the school systems. If Fairfax County's still having a huge problem and they want to close their school system in the fall, then let them do that. Let that be a local decision. But for many of the jurisdictions in Southwest Virginia, they're going to want to open. The people want them to open. The parents want them to open. And I think it's something that's safe to do as long as everybody's taking precautions. And you go forward. And I think they can do it, but we'll see. It's been a little hard to figure out where the governor's going on something.
The chairman of the executive committee of Liberty's board called me yesterday from Florida. He said that in the 1960s, Ryan and Scott looked this up, 1967 or so, there was a extremely devastating strain of the flu that went around and killed 100,000 people, and absolutely nothing shut down. No governor shut anything down. They let it run.
I went to school. My mother was sick as a dog with it, and I can remember going to school, and I was going to swim team practice, and the only reason I remember that is I broke my tooth, and she's laying there sick with the flu, and I had to go get my tooth repaired, and nothing closed. I remember it well.
Robert?
Morgan, great to hear your voice. This is Robert.
Robert, it's always good to talk to you and Dave.
Absolutely. Listen, I had a question because I know you are somebody who knows history and knows the Constitution, both the U.S. Constitution and the Virginia Constitution. But a question that I've thought about is, what do you think about the expansive powers that this governor has exercised, and what do you think is what are the limits on this power, and at what point should the General Assembly, the legislature, the voice of the people, at what point should the people have a say in these draconian decisions that are often draconian decisions that are being made by the executive, regardless of who's in power? Have you thought about that?
Well, I will tell you, of course, each legislature is a new body, and they have to make a decision as to when they step in. They have the power to step in and check the governor if they think he's gone too far. It's also one of the reasons why we only have one-term governors in Virginia, is that we give the governor so much power, so many appointments, and so much power over everything that we don't want him to be there for more than 4 years, or her to be there for more than 4 years, because there's a tendency to do more and more as you go forward and maybe overstep the lines. Constitutionally, I think the governor overstepped the lines on churches. I think you have to treat churches in the case of a disaster like this. You have to treat them exactly as you treat other entities. When he allowed the ABC stores and the hardware stores to stay open, and the craft stores, as my wife always likes to point out, and they didn't have a restriction on the number of people that could be inside the store at any given moment, I think he violated the rights of all the churches. That doesn't mean they should have been in attendance. That was a decision for each church to make. But I don't think the governor has the right to say it's going to be a Class 1 misdemeanor.
And Morgan, I
retweeted
somebody the other day who said maybe churches should start meeting at Walmart.
Yeah.
Dave,
Exactly.
we're gonna end here with
Yeah,
Dave. Go ahead.
yeah, Morgan, great to hear you folks out there listening. Morgan Griffith, one of the best constitutional and procedural experts on how Congress works up there, and it was just a pleasure to work with you, Morgan. And I just wanted to go off on the implications of the schooling decisions. After the 2008 financial crisis, they asked Greenspan to Bernanke, what's the biggest damage that's going to play out from this financial crisis? And the current financial crisis is much deeper than that one. And they said the effect on human capital, the effect on education, on the skills of the workers. And there's evidence out already. Sociology's got good evidence. But the folks that lose their jobs, displaced workers, and right now that's 35, 40% you're verging on.
Right.
35%, 40% of workers displaced. They will have their wages 20% reduction for the next 20 years. 20 years out, 20% less wages on out through 2 decades. So education matters. It's huge. When politicians are making these decisions lightly, they are not thinking about the American people. They're not thinking about the implications of their actions. The pain from that economic decision will outweigh the pain of the virus by multiples. It's not even in the ballpark.